The war in Vietnam is a combined and joint effort, whatever you are.
The U.S. effort to our Vietnamese allies is a vast and comprehensive one. All of the armed forces of the U.S. play a part.
In the final analysis, it's their war. They're the ones who have to win it or lose it.
What your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country.
Is the dropping of leaflets to warn civilians of the military vulnerability of their area or of impending airstrikes. And still another is the use of broadcasts.
So this was 1962, and the U.S. military was steadily building its presence in Vietnam.
American involvement in Vietnam has been constant and costly since the French were pushed out. At least 61 American lives have been lost in battle with the communist Viet Cong. 16.
And so there was a mission, and there were nearly 100 U.S. troops aboard a chartered flight. It was Flying Tiger Line Flight 739. These were electronic and communication specialists.
S1 and communication officer. Here's a message from the colonel.
Who were aboard this plane. There were also 11 crew members and a few South Vietnamese personnel on the flight with them.
A small group of communication specialists make certain that the president is never out of touch with the nation or the world.
We don't know exactly what their job was going to be when they got there, but the flight went missing somewhere between Guam and the Philippines. So there's been a movement over the years for the grieving families of the troops who were aboard this flight to somehow memorialize them. And so an organization, a nonprofit called Wreaths Across America, decided to take it upon themselves to erect their own monument up in Maine. And they invited the surviving loved ones of these troops up for an event, for an unveiling of the monument.
We have gathered here in beautiful Down East Maine to pay proper respects and thanks to the long overdue of many of you here today. It's been nearly 60 years since Flying Tiger Line Flight 739 went missing. And we know for many of you here today, you've been waiting a long time to see your loved ones' names etched in stone so they wouldn't be forgotten.
When I started reporting on this, I had no idea about this mission. It was surprising to me. And it was personally interesting to me because my father served in Vietnam. So I asked Readers Across America, could you find any people in Georgia that are connected to this story? And they connected me with Jan Stevens, who lives up in Canton, Georgia. Her father was aboard this flight, and she was born just 5 months after he disappeared.
My father's name was Lindsay Kirby Hester. He was in the military. I recently found out that he served in World War II during the American occupation at the end of World War II in 1945. He was 19 years old, and after that he came back home to LaGrange, Georgia, and finished high school and graduated at 21 years old. And that was in 1947. In 1948, he was in Korea.
Track trajectory of the round.
He was there in 49 and came home for Officer Training Corps. I think it was somewhere in the early 50s that he and my mother met. Fell in love, got married, and at some point in the early 50s, they went to live in Germany.
Her father was a senior non-commissioned officer with extensive training who had served, again, in post-World War II in Germany, had also served in Korea in the run-up to the war.
People out there on the fighting line. You at home.
There's so much that I don't know that I'm still learning about.
And so Jan has been collecting steadily photographs and letters and his military records from her father.
It's hard to find out something that you didn't know that happened 60 years ago to your family.
"402 correspondents from many nations gather at the State Department in Washington, D.C. to attend President John F. Kennedy's news conference. Here on April 21st, 1961, is President Kennedy's 10th question and answer meeting with the press.
I think we face an extremely serious and intensified struggle with the communists. I would hope that all those who strongly are concerned about it would address themselves to the kinds of problems which are created by Laos, Vietnam.
Vietnam became the American key to the security of Southeast Asia soon after the end of French colonial rule there in 1954. The country was split in half at the 17th parallel. The North fell under communist rule. The South was turned free.
He and 92 other Army Rangers were selected to go on a mission to Saigon, Vietnam.
I don't think that unless a greater effort is made by the government to win popular support, that the war can be won out there. In the final analysis, it's their war. They're the ones who have to win it or lose it. We can help them, we can give them equipment, we can send our men out there as advisors.
At the request of the South Vietnamese government, we are helping peace-loving people learn how to defend themselves.
But they have to win it, the people of Vietnam, against the communists. We're prepared to continue to assist them.
Ground to cockpit. Clear to start.
They left from Travis Air Force Base in California.
Eastern Transport maintains contact with Mission Deep Freeze, and at the same time, another special mission being coordinated with the Western Transport Air Force at Travis Air Force Base, California.
Went to fuel stops in Honolulu. Waikiki, wish you were here. And on the back, it says 5 a.m., 14th of March in Honolulu. Dear Gigi, this is just a card to let you know, okay so far. Next stop, Wake Island, then Guam, then Manila, then Saigon. The Corvair jet spoiled me. We are on Flying Tigers Airlines Super Constellation, and it's like a slow freight. Should arrive at destination Friday morning. Take care, and I love you. Bye-bye, Curb. Then they went on to refuel in Wake Island and Guam. And when they left Guam, 2 hours into the flight, communications were lost.
But the flight went missing somewhere between Guam and the Philippines. And the Civil Aeronautics Board, which was an early version of the National Transportation Safety Board, investigated, and they put out a 16-page report. That's really the only document that is out today that describes what happened in the investigation into it. There was a supertanker in the ocean around where that flight was supposed to be, manned by an Italian crew, and they reported to authorities seeing a mid-air explosion about that time. But none of the debris was ever recovered, though a massive search and rescue effort was underway. And again, the cause was never determined. So the thing that's really frustrating about this story is it's a mystery, much of it still. What are we, decades later now, that we still don't know the cause of the crash. There's no wreckage ever recovered, and there's really no public records that I've been able to obtain for my reporting other than the original Civil Aeronautics Board report, the 16-page report, which is pretty thin.
Back in '93, when we got internet, as soon as I plugged my phone line into AOL, first thing I did was start searching for his records.
As a journalist, it's really frustrating that there's no bigger paper trail here. No other records that I could get to advance the story even further than what's already been reported out there.
The things that I found were all just almost completely redacted.
Jan kept the original telegrams that came to her mother, informing her that her father was missing.
Mrs. Janice A. Hester, in care of Mrs. Bowman Allen, General Delivery, Shaman, Alabama. The Secretary
of the Army has asked me to express his deep regret that your husband, Sergeant First Class Lindsay K. Hester, was a passenger aboard a chartered aircraft that was reported missing while in flight over the Pacific Ocean on 15 March 1962. Air and sea rescue searches are being conducted, and as soon as additional information becomes available, you will be further advised.
You have my deepest sympathy during this trying time. His father, Mr. Russ K. Hester, has also been notified.
This telegram was to her mother saying that her husband was considered as having perished on March 16, 1962, together with all other passengers aboard the ill-fated aircraft. And this part was particularly moving for me, where it said, "The Secretary of the Army has asked me to express his regret at the sorrow this message brings to you." And this was from the Major General J.C. Lambert, who was then the Army's Adjutant General. So this was a connection to the past, and it was particularly moving to see these telegrams.
Okay, this is the last letter that I think my mom ever got from my dad.
And then the letters is what really got me. There was these letters back and forth between her mother and her father around the time that he was getting on this flight, and he was, sweetly calling her pet names and talking about how she must be X number of months pregnant at the time with their daughter, and talking about potential names for their daughter.
It says, "Dear Tweety Doll, mush mush, I'm hoping to hear from you about Monday. I want to hear how you are doing. You're 4.5 months now. I still haven't thought of a girl's name yet, so just in case, don't do anything till you hear from me. You think about what you missed, because I wasn't born until 5 months later." I didn't want it to be over, so every once in a while I'll get them out and I'll read them again.
It was a particularly compelling part of the story that she was born, 5 months after her father went missing. And all she has is the memories that her mother shared with her, the letters she's been able to gather between her mother and her father's military records, and some photographs. So for her, it had to be quite emotional to go up to Maine and to see this memorial for the first time.
Oh, amazing. The monument, it's so much more than I ever expected.
Families of Flying Tiger Line, Flight 739, passengers and crew.
I got out there and I was with people like me.
Over and over, what I read and heard, and I heard again last night, was we fear that these patriots, our loved ones, will be forgotten.
We still don't have the ultimate goal. We still don't have their names on the wall.
And there are a number of these family members who want their loved ones' names included on the Vietnam Veteran War Memorial in Washington, D.C. Their efforts have so far failed, though there was legislation introduced in recent years to make that happen. That legislation stalled and did not advance.
Let me encourage you, everyone, this monument is a first step. There are many to come. I want to encourage you that there are, as Wayne has already mentioned, commemorative partners who have come alongside the Vietnam War commemoration across the nation, all 56 U.S. states, territories, and the district. There are millions of readers and viewers who know about this story because of what they've said, and your interviews. Jen, your interviews. Clifton, your interview. we're reading it as an American public, perhaps becoming aware for the very first time of your loss. And as I said, I think there's more to come.
We did a little tree ceremony, which the people at Wreaths Across America made replica dog tags of our lost loved one. Their forest there, they give you a tree, and this tree will never be cut down, and it's your tree, and you hang your loved one's dog tags in it. And 8 years ago, when my mom passed, I found her dog tags. I took them with me, and I put one of her dog tags with one of my dad's dog tags, and I hung them in the tree. Sergeant First Class Lindsay Kirby Hester, Army, 3/16/1962, Tiger Flight 739. And so they're there now. After 60 years, they're kind of back together again. So that's my job. It's done.
But the last time is when the name is spoken for the very last time. And as families, you have continued to say the names, and you said them over and over. And now I can tell you, and you were beyond the sacrifice of your families. You've given so much more, and we have learned so much, and I promise you as an organization that what we've learned, we will pass on.